And so from here on out, I'm going to go ahead and record this session, and then I will send this to Dr. Dow as a YouTube link after this weekend. I'll also add the closed captions so that you can follow along. So if there's anything that we do today that you might think, I need to repeat this, or I just need to see how Cynthia did that again, you will have this recording to go back to. And as Dr. Dow indicated, she and I were conversing back and forth via email earlier this morning. Something that I'm going to be sure to do, because I know that is a smaller screen, is that I will try to be very clear as I go along how we are going to navigate within the LibGuides system. And I'm delighted to hear that there are laptops that are strategically placed around the room. Everything that we do in this hour session, I definitely would love for you all to follow along with me. I believe that you all do have your login information for the Slim LibGuides system, so we'll be using this today. You might want to take turns on having one person at each table. If you have laptops around there, maybe logging into their account and then following along. So as we go along, I will probably pause from time to time and just confirm that you all can see my screen that I start sharing. So I think without further ado, we are ready to start. And I am so happy to be with you all again. Yes?
So Cynthia, maybe I need to stop my video because I'm taking up half the screen.
Actually, Dr. Dow, I think you will be all right because I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. And something I'm going to verify. Yes, and I'm going to verify with you all first before I share this. Let's go in here. That you will be seeing exactly what I would like for you all to see. And then I think we'll be okay. So at this point, are you all seeing the Emporia State University's libraries homepage? Okay.
Yeah, that was a yes.
Awesome. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. So when I worked with your 801 class just a few weeks ago, it wasn't very long ago, we did indeed spend quite a bit of time on this page. And as Dr. Dow indicated, you might remember in 801 that I was showing you how to navigate the different databases, doing searches, and so forth. So now this one is going to be a little bit different. So what we're going to be doing today is showing you how to use a system called LibGuides to do your Pathfinder assignment for LI802. Now, I think that Dr. Dow has probably already indicated to you that you're not limited to LibGuides. Some of you may be a little bit more comfortable and familiar creating web pages through freely available systems such as Wix or Weebly, and that's another great way of doing that. I think one advantage of learning about LibGuides is that this is a system that some of you may wind up having access to in different libraries. It is a subscription-based service, so that basically means that a library will pay a certain amount of money per year for access to the LibGuides system. We have LibGuides available through William Allen White's library, and as a result, a lot of us in the library, including me, will use LibGuides to create different online research guides that are tailored to specific audience, such as the School of Library and Information Management, or different disciplines, different departments, but they can go way beyond that. An online research guide or an online pathfinder can be used for any type of situation. In a public library, you can create an online guide for perhaps a specific type of programming that you're doing to feature activities for National Library Week, for example, or Banned Books Week. In academic libraries, again, we tend to use guides for specific classes or specific subjects. So what I thought I would do is start with showing you how you can find different research guides that we have created through the Emporia Campus Library to help give you some ideas of the way they are structured. So if you would like to, on your laptops, you might remember that if you go to library.emporia.edu, that's going to be the fastest way to get to the library's webpage. So I'll give you a second to do that. And once you are back at the William Allen White Library's webpage, we're going to use a different tab this time. We've been using the Discovery Search, databases, and journals. But once you're at the library's webpage, what I'd like for you to do is click on a tab called Research Guides. And I'm going to have you just type in SLIM for slim. This will look familiar because we actually use this in LI801. But we're going to look at this from actually a different perspective now. So if we click on this first choice for library and information management resources, this is going back to the research guide that I created for you all as SLIM students to help you learn how to do your research, how to use interlibrary loan, tabs for APA citation and writing help, and so forth. However, for this class, I want you to be aware of the fact that I actually used LibGuides to create this guide. So what I did with this one was I created different pages or tabs for each part of the resources page. I added pictures, I added links to video tutorials, and so forth. So what I'm going to do today is actually show you how you can create this type of guide using the LibGuide system. I'm going to show you how to create pages. I will show you how to add images or photos, how to add links to YouTube videos, just a lot of different things that you can do when you're thinking about your audience and what it is that you would like to actually bring out for your audience. Now, if we were to go back to the library's homepage, I'm still here under Research Guides. You can do more than just explore this area. If you were to type in my last name, Kane, or if you were to type in the last name of one of my colleagues, and I'm going to use my colleague Terry Summey as an example, I'm going to search by her last name, S-U-M-M-E-Y. And the reason I wanted to do that is something I want to be sure to highlight today, and I'm going to be sure and leave you with more information by the end of the session, is how you can actually find examples of different LibGuides that are out there on the web to give you some more ideas of how you can create different types of guides and how you can modify them and customize them accordingly. So my colleague, Dr. Terry Summey, has written a number of research guides using LibGuides for different areas. So here's an example of one that she's done. For scientific research and writing, we are all liaisons to different disciplines. In addition to SLIM, I'm also the liaison for the Department of Psychology and the Department of Counselor Education. And Terry is a liaison for the Department of Biological Sciences. So she works a lot with different courses for scientific research and writing. So this is an example of a LibGuide that she actually wrote for those classes to teach them how to do a literature review, using a database called Biological Abstracts, finding the full text of articles, the differences between primary and secondary sources in scientific literature, and so forth. And the reason I wanted to pull up this one is that this is an example of a little bit of a different type of research guide. So this one is a little bit broader for scientific research and writing. The one that I wrote for you all is a little bit more specific because it has to do specifically with doing research for library and information management. You are very welcome to go back over here to the library's homepage. And again, under research guides, if you were to search under Terry Summey's last name or my last name, Kane, K-A-N-E, you can see different guides that we've written just to kind of give you some more ideas. But what we are going to do now is actually get into the nuts and bolts. So I promised that what I would do is kind of describe what I'm doing on the screen and then give you all an opportunity to follow along. If you were to go to emporiaslim.libapps.com, emporiaslim.libapps.com, you're going to be logging into the SLIM account for LibGuides. And this is something that's been set up specifically for you all as SLIM students. So the first thing I need to caution you on this is, and Dr. Dow knows this very well, I am more than happy to be your resource person once you get to the point where you're starting to build a LibGuide. And if you're not quite sure how to do something like import an image, import a video, change colors, anything technical like that, please, please email me, call me. You can set up a Zoom research appointment with me, and I'm more than happy to do that. If you have questions more along the lines of the content or the audience for your guide, I would feel much more comfortable if you were visiting with Dr. Dow about those questions, because that's really more assignment based, and I'm not that comfortable trying to answer those types of questions that are more geared toward the assignment. But anything having to do with creating the LibGuide, anything technical, absolutely ask me, and I'm more than happy to help you with that. So Dr. Sarah Sutton is the administrator for the SLIM LibGuide system. She's also the person to contact if you have any difficulties logging in, or if some reason your password decides not to work anymore. And she has very kindly set me up with an account in the Emporia State University SLIM system, which I really appreciate. So we went to emporiaslim.libapps.com. I'm going to log in with my email address and my password that I've set up, and I'm going to click on Login to LibApps. And when I do that, this is what your screen should look like next. It's going to take you to something called LibGuides Home, and this is what you want to see. And at this point, this is where you can create anything that you would want to do. So the first thing we are going to do is actually click on Create Guide. And we're going to go ahead and start fresh. And I should also tell you that everything we do at this point, you can actually modify. So the first thing you want to do when you start creating a new guide, keep in mind too that everything is unpublished at this point. You can make any changes or any modifications that you would want to do. But one of the first things you're going to do is give this guide a name. Now, if you decide that you don't like the name or you want to change it, you can always go back and change the name at some point. But just go ahead and create a name for a guide so that it gives you kind of something to play with. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a guide for, let's see, actually for art therapy. And the reason I did that is one of the departments within counselor education that I work with is art therapy. And I have a guide that I've done for them, but I actually haven't updated it for a while, so we're going to play with that. So what I want to do now is I'm going to be creating a research guide for art therapy graduate students. So from now on, everything that I focus on is going to be on databases, tutorials, maybe books that are out there that deal specifically with art therapy. So that's going to be my focus. I could add a description if I wanted, but don't necessarily have to. I can call this, in terms of the type of guide, you can specify the type of guide that you are doing. You don't necessarily have to do that, but if somebody wanted to find your guide later on, it's going to be associated with the type of guide. This is going to be a subject guide. I don't need a password for people to look at this. You can add a password if you were in a situation in which you had maybe an internal guide for library policies, for example, but we're not going to do that right now. And we're just going to go ahead and create our guide. This is where we can start having some fun. So right now, this is very static, and you might see this screen once I have gotten to the point where I'm ready to create my guide, and you think, okay, but what do I do with this next? So what I'm going to be doing at this point now is walking you through the process of creating what LibGuides actually calls pages. They actually look like tabs because they're tabs to navigate at the top of your guide, but if you're ever using the nomenclature that LibGuides uses, they will call these pages. So for example, right now, this page for home, that is a page. So I'm going to go back up here because there's one thing that I always like to do right away before I forget. So you notice up here, there's a URL that's already been assigned to this guide. This is not a friendly URL. So in other words, it would be hard to tell somebody to go to PHP, ? And so forth. One thing that I always do, and I do encourage you to do this with your own guide because you're going to be sharing this URL eventually with Dr. Dow and maybe with other students as well so that they can see what you've done. They can see the good work that you've done. We're going to edit this URL. And what we're going to do is the first part will be emporiaslim.libguides.com. And we're going to call it something that somebody can remember. So I could do art therapy, or I could do art dash therapy, which actually looks a little bit better. And that's going to change in just a second. So see, now I've created a URL that I can actually give to somebody to remember, and it's going to be a heck of a lot easier for them to remember. So I do encourage you to do that right away. Change that to a URL that somebody can remember. And the last part can be just the subject that you're doing. So now we get to have some fun with this. This is kind of the fun part. So the home page can be a lot of different things. A home page can be what I have here with library and information management resources. So my home page is now just kind of a nice little welcome, and I put links here to the library's homepage. I put a link to my email address and my contact information for you. I could do the same thing here, but how do I do that? Well, with LibGuides, you can wind up adding what are called boxes of information. So boxes are actually within the tabs or the pages. And this is actually where you can have a lot of fun as well. So we're going to add a box. So I could call this name something like, Welcome to the Art Therapy Program at ESU. Because again, keep in mind, this is something that I might be creating for graduate students in the art therapy program. And I don't really have to change anything else here. I can just go ahead and save this. And now this is where we can start customizing and adding content. And one thing that I really like about LibGuides is if you know HTML, that's okay, but you don't have to know HTML, and you don't really have to know any coding in order to add content to LibGuides. It sort of does this for you, and there's a lot of different things that you can do. So when I go here to add or reorder, this is actually where I can customize what I'm going to be doing in this box. And we're going to be doing some different things in just a little bit. One of the most common ones that you're going to use is this first one that's called Rich Text HTML. It's probably the most versatile one. And are you all seeing a box now on your screen that says Styles, Normal Font? Okay, great. Thank you for nodding your head. I appreciate that. I always want to make sure that you're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, because sometimes I can start talking and then I realize I'm not sharing what I should be. So the Rich Text HTML, as I said, is probably the most versatile of all of the content boxes you can do in LibGuides. You can change the font to something that might be a little bit more readable. Sometimes I use Verdana. And you can also change the size. And I often will do this because the default size, to be honest, with some of these boxes with LibGuides, it's really tiny and it's hard to see. And we have to think about accessibility issues as well. So what I could do at this point is just start typing in text. I could say, welcome to ESU and the Art Therapy Program. We are glad you are here. And then I could, if I wanted to, notice I'm going to have to go back and change this font again, because sometimes it doesn't always stay as it should. Don't be surprised if this happens. Then I can actually use this box, and this is kind of a good idea. Maybe explain what the purpose of your guide is. Why is somebody wanting to use this guide? This guide is intended to be an introduction to services and resources through William Allen White Library that will help you in your research. Okay, and in reality, I probably add a little bit more content, but for the interest of time, I just wanted to show you how easy that is. So you see how easy? I can just customize that, add some introductions, and I'm good. I'm on my way. Now, this is really important to do. You either want to come down here and save your work as you go along, because you sure don't want to lose all the good work that you've done. Or if you clicked on save and close, that would save your work and close that box simultaneously. So that can just be a very, very basic home, a very basic introduction. And then to create another page, you just come back up here to this plus sign, click on Add New Page. And you can call this page whatever that you would want it to be. So you notice that sometimes with the guides that I create, such as the one for Slim, sometimes I make that new page something called Starting Your Research. And that can be anything that you would want. Okay, now this is going to change a little bit. So now on this, I still have the top box, but you notice, and I had this on the previous page as well, I can actually do different columns. And I'm going to go back over here to our Library and Information Management page. And I'm going to go to Starting Your Research. So this page on my Slim Guide is actually an example of something that I did in the top box. So this is what I did in the top box. And then I actually kept these two boxes as two columns, column 1 and column 2. You can customize these particular boxes in any way that you want. If you wanted something in column 1, column 2, and column 3, you can do that. If you go over here to Layout, though, this is where you can change a lot of different things. If you only wanted 2 columns, that would be actually exactly even. That's what 50-50 means. Or if you wanted 2 columns and you wanted the first column to be smaller, 25% of the screen, and the second one to be bigger, 75% of the screen, you can change that as well. This defaulted to 3 columns, but you can basically do whatever you want with that. But let's go over here, because this is a perfect opportunity to show you the next thing that I wanted you to be aware of. So a box always has to have a name, and sometimes that feels a little bit redundant. I could call this one, where do I start? And again, I can always go back and change that if I want. Let's go back to Add and Reorder. And this is where we can have a little bit of fun. We're going to go back to Rich Text HTML, because the next thing I wanted to show you how to do is how to add a photo or how to add an image to make your guide a little bit more visually appealing. Super easy to do. You can do this within the Rich Text and HTML portion, and just go over to this little icon for image. And if you have an image that is linked to a URL, you can put that URL in, or you can go to Browse Server. And often what I will do, you notice that I have different images here. You can actually upload a new image into your guide. And that can be an image of maybe a photo that you've taken yourself, so you have your own copyright to that. Or often what I will do is I will go out and search on a site such as Pixabay, Pixabay. And Pixabay is a very good source for copyright-free photos and copyright-free images, so you don't have to worry about any intellectual property or copyright issues. I kind of like to do that because I like to add images. I think they add a little bit of visual interest. And at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm not going to run into any copyright issues. So I have this one that I used on the Slim Guide. Life is like Google. You just need to know what you are searching for. I have that one. But I'm going to add another one just for the fun of it. This is an image that I uploaded. And if you ever have a chance to come to William Allen White Library, come to the Emporia campus one of these days, this is a photo that I took a few months ago of our remodeled 4th floor. So I might just want to add a photo just for the fun of it. Let's click on Save. And
Where's the photo?
Oh,
We
just a
haven't seen
second.
it yet. Oh, okay.
Oh, not yet.
Okay. Okay.
That's okay.
Are you browsing or?
I'm browsing. These are actually ones that I've already uploaded into my own LibGuides. But if I wanted to upload a new image, I could click on Upload New Image. I do want to show you all this as well. And this is where I could go into any photos that I have saved on my own computer or images that I've downloaded, and then I could upload those into my image library as well. Let me go back over here. But these are a bunch that I have already uploaded.
I
So,
think I see your fourth floor picture.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go here. Okay, and I'm going to move this a little bit more so I can see that a little bit better.
We can't see what you're moving.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right.
Okay.
I was
Right.
moving a window so I could see it a little bit better.
Okay.
And I was going to see if that was actually going to preview. Let's see if it does. And if it does, I'm going to do that one again. Okay, let's try that again. I'm going to browse server. And let's see if I can get into this. I wanted to try to upload this one again, this one that I had. Let's try that. Okay, and
It's not letting us see your browse. It's okay.
All righty. Okay, I think that was one being a little bit stubborn. So let's try that one again. Actually, let's do this. Okay, I'm kind of playing around with something here. Okay, let's do something else here.
Are you moving your cursor?
I am. You probably are not seeing what I'm doing right now.
No. Okay.
That's okay. Because I think okay. Yeah, you probably are not seeing what I'm doing right now. Okay.
There. Oh.
Okay. What I was doing was I was actually uploading a new image because I wanted you all to be able to see how I did that. So probably not all of that appeared on the screen because of the way the sharing works. Essentially what I did was I clicked on Browse Server. And when I clicked on that, that took me back into my own computer, and I just went ahead and I selected and uploaded an image that I had on my computer already. And this is a way that you can upload your own image to use in your LibGuide. So I apologize because sometimes that sharing doesn't work when it starts popping up with multiple windows. Are you seeing something now that says the ultimate cheat sheet for critical thinking?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, that's actually what I wanted you to see. Okay, so I can play right here. I can actually change the alignment. So I could have this particular image on the left side of the screen or the right side of the screen. And sometimes what I do is I go ahead and I click on OK. Okay, so the reason I did that is that you notice this is pretty big right now. So if I click on Save and Close, that's actually, this is a good image that I wound up downloading, but you see that that's actually a little bit too big for the screen. That's okay, because we can go back over here, go back up to this point, and if you see this little tiny pencil here that says Edit, I can actually go back and I can edit this. And I think if I go under Source, or actually I go under here. Okay, let's go back to this image. Okay, so what I did was I went back to this image because it's way too big. I don't really like it that large. And I right-clicked on the image. And I'm going to go back to Image Properties. And here's where I can actually play around with the size, basically the pixels. So depending on what I want to do, see that's pretty tiny. You notice that I just started to type in basically the size of a pixel. And sometimes I just experiment with this because I just want to see what this is going to look like. So that made that a little bit bigger. Let's click on OK again. And we're going to click on Save and Close. Okay, now that's kind of tiny right now. I would probably want to make that bigger, but I just wanted to show you that you can resize your image once you upload it, and you can keep playing around and seeing what that would look like. So I could, like I said, just kind of play with this. Let's go back to Edit. And kind of playing with this stuff here. Okay. Here we go. So at this point, you see I'm kind of moving around my cursor here, and I had this aligned to the left side. And if I wanted, I'm kind of moving this around here. I'm going to change that font size again to Verdana. And we're going to change this to 16. And this is where I could start typing in my text. And you can start typing in your text, and then you can play around. It should wrap around your image and then make that, again, a little bit more visually appealing.
So it will automatically wrap around the image?
Yes, yes, it will wrap around the image, and I can actually play with that as well. Actually, I could go back up here. Let's go back to Edit again. Edit. And I actually could delete this. I think what I'm doing is I'm just holding down my space key here. I can move that around, and there we go. I can change my font size again. Sometimes you just kind of have to play around with this stuff a little bit. Donna. And again, sometimes you have to go back and change that. So I can just start typing in this page, we will look at online resources that are pertinent to our therapy. I was hoping I was going to do that. I may have to play with that a little bit because it didn't want to wrap around as much as I wanted it to. Let's see if I can do that. Image properties. If I change that to not set, that may decide to wrap around a little bit more. Okay, I probably will have to play around with that a little bit, and I may get back to you all because I know there's a way that that will wrap around a little bit more. But I'm just going to go ahead and save and close this for right now. Okay. And you see I'm probably going to have to play around with that because that's not exactly formatting the way that I would want to. I might want to go back and edit this. Let's go back to Edit again. Scroll down, here we go. Edit. I'm going to right click on this again. And we're going to change this to the left alignment again because I had changed that, and we'll do save and close. Okay, there we go. There, now that looks a little bit better. And I can move that up a little bit more as well. So what I wanted to show you in this page too is I might change the layout. And I have actually 3 columns going on right now at the very bottom. I'm actually going to change that to 2 columns. And notice that flipped around there. If I go back over here, actually I think it's under Page. Okay, I'm going to go under Page, and now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reorder these boxes. And the cool thing about this is that I can change that. I didn't want it in column 2, I actually wanted it in column 1.
Just drag it over there.
There we go. Yeah, and I need to change that alignment because you see that kind of messed up that alignment a little bit, but I could always go back and fix that. But that's under page, and you can reorder pages, but you can also reorder boxes if you don't like the way that looks. So we're going to go to column 2, and we're going to add another box. And I'm going to call this one Free Online Resources for Art Therapy. And the reason I'm calling it this is that I wanted to show you another type of box that we can add. And that's under, again, Add and Reorder. And that would be links. And this one I actually like to do because this is a very easy way of adding links and descriptions to freely available online resources. So I'm actually going to go over here to the Scientific Research and Reading tab, and the reason I'm doing that is that I'm actually going to pull up AATA, which is the American Art Therapy Association, and this is the major association in the field of art therapy. They have a journal, and they have annual conferences. And so I want to add a link to the American Art Therapy Association. So I just highlighted that link, and I'm right-clicking to copy that. We're going to go back over here, go down to the link URL. We're going to paste that link, and I'm going to call that American Art Therapy Association. So something that I always want to do if I'm adding a link to another site, I always want that to open in a new window rather than the same window, so I'm not asking my patrons to navigate back and forth using the back button. And down here, this is where you can add a quick description. Is the major association in the field of art therapy. I happen to know this, so I'm going to add student memberships are available that will also give you access to the art therapy journal in print and online. I just happen to know this because I've been working with the art therapy students so much. So that's the quick description that I gave of that link. And this is the fun part that I think is kind of neat. You can decide how you want the description of that link to look. You can have it displayed between the, beneath the item title or hover, or you can add a little I for info icon, and you can have it show up when it hovers over there. So when I go over here, American Art Therapy Association, there you go. And I just think that looks kind of neat. I like to add the descriptions that way, but you can do whatever you would want. And you can go back to add, go back to link, and keep adding different links to freely available online resources, which is what you may want to do for some of your guides. And again, very, very easy to do. Just be sure that you're changing that to opening in the new window. So this is actually a good time to show you something else as well. I am going to scroll back up here to the top of our screen, and there are a couple of items over here that I wanted to show you. So I mentioned that everything I'm doing at this point is unpublished, so nobody can see this except me logged onto my own account. When we finish with this, when we get toward the end, I'm going to show you the last part that you will be doing, which is that you will be publishing your guide as a private guide. A private guide just simply means that anybody who has access to the URL will be able to pull up your guide and see that. And that's what you'll be doing kind of as your last point. So something I did want to show you though, at any point, you can go over here to this little I, which is a guide preview. And are you all seeing now art therapy starting your research? Are you seeing that in a different tab now? Okay, you can preview this at any point. So you can see again, I really need to fix this part over here because it doesn't look as nice as I want it to, but that's okay because I can go back and I can edit it. And if I clicked on home, that's where my starting point was that I edited in the first place. So you can always preview this at any point. And if it isn't the way that you like it to be, that gives you an opportunity to change that. Sometimes I like to preview my guide on different browsers as well. I'm using Google Chrome right now, but sometimes I want to see what it looks like in Firefox or other browsers that other people might be using. So something else you can do over here too. There's another deal for guide layout, and this is under this little picture here. And you can go to tab and box options. And I actually really like to play with this. So if I went back over here to Library and Information Management Resources, you notice I actually changed the colors. I changed the background colors here of my boxes and my pages, my page tabs. Sometimes I like to do that because I want something that's, again, a little bit more visually appealing. I'm going to close this again and show you how I got to that. So under here, I'm going to go to this little thing that looks like a photo for guide layout and go to tab and box options. So under the tab options, I can change the shape, but I can also change the background color of my tabs and of my boxes as well. And this is something you have to be kind of careful of because you might not want to change the font color. You actually might want to change the background color of the tabs. So if I click on this, I'm just kind of moving my little cursor here, and that's just kind of coming up with different possibilities. I can also go down here or here, and I'm kind of getting the whole range of colors that might be available. I would be a little bit careful because, again, something you want to be cautious about when you are dealing with colors or anything like this would be accessibility issues. Will somebody actually be able to read your guide, or is it going to cause a problem in terms of visibility? So if we clicked on Save, that changed that a little bit. See it now, see it's a little bit different now in terms of my tab colors. And if I go back over here to tab and box options, now I'm going to click on box options. I can change the border of my boxes, my border color if I would want. And again, I'm going to do the header background. And I might change that to something like that. I'm not changing the font color, I'm just changing the background color. We'll save that. Okay. And you see, I really can't read that now, so I need to go back in here to tab and box options. This is why you always want to make sure that whatever you're playing with, that it can actually be viewed and that it's visible. So we're going to see how this goes. And you can always revert to a default if you don't like the way that looks. Okay, now you can see that a little bit better. So sometimes it's kind of fun just to experiment with some different colors. Again, keeping in mind that you want them to be the types of colors that people can actually use and that they can actually view. So let's create another page. Again, super easy to create another page. We're going to call this one now videos. Because the other thing I wanted to show you is that it's very easy. I can add boxes, or I could just add this in a top box. It may be that there's something out on YouTube. There might be an interview with an art therapist that I would want students to take a look at. Actually, embedding videos through YouTube is very easy to do. So I'm going to do art therapist interviews. So we'll save this. And the way we're going to do this now is we're going to go back into add or reorder. And now, in order to embed a video from a site such as YouTube, we're going to go to Media, Widget. And I'm going to go back up here. I'm actually going to go to YouTube. And I'm going to see if I can find a video that might be an interview with somebody in art therapy. There's art therapy session, art therapy techniques, art therapy TED Talk. That might be kind of interesting to take a look at. Oh, here's a perfect one. Art is empowerment, the virtue of art therapy. That would be a really neat one, and I love TED Talks. So we're going to pull this up, and you probably already know this. We'll let this go by its ad. Skip the ad. I'm going to pause this. And you probably already know this, but just in case, what we're going to do now is we're going to copy and paste the embed code. And are you all seeing now the video to the left side and the embed video? Are you seeing that on your screen now to the right side? Is that showing up? Okay, awesome. Good, good, good. So I'm going to just actually copy this embed code. Close that for now. Go back to my tab for Edit Videos. And I can call this one Art as Empowerment. TED Talk. And paste the embed code. I'm going to have this stay at the top of the box. Save this. There you go. This is actually one of my favorite things to do with LibGuides because I like to add videos, and it's just so easy to do something like that. And I could keep adding more if I wanted to, but again, I just do that under that add and reorder. Let me scroll this down so you can see it better, and I can see it better too. And go to Media, Widget, add the name of the video, and then copy and paste the embed code. And there it is. I also wanted to show you, I'm going to create another page called Books, because I really enjoy doing this one as well. So I do need to warn you, with the Slim LibGuides system, there are some limitations to what you can and can't do. If I am logged on to the Emporia State University's library's LibGuides site, I can actually add links to books from our library catalog, and I can also add links to our databases, which is what I did under your library and information management resources. When I did starting your research, and I provided these links for you all on recommended library databases, our system connects to our databases, so that's why I was able to give you direct links to these databases. You cannot do that with the Slim LibGuide system. I have tried it because it's not connected to the William Allen White Library system. Having said that, though, there are some other things that you can do. So I might want to provide some links to useful books in art therapy. And if I added, I could do this in column 1 or column 2. I'll do column 2 just for the heck of it. I'm going to do, let's see, resources for, let's do resources for expressive arts therapy. I have learned on working with art therapy that there are a lot of different levels beyond just the actual term of art therapy. Expressive arts therapy is actually one. So I want to show you something. I think this is kind of fun to do. I could go to Amazon. And in Amazon, if I had the title of a book that I knew was good for my discipline or for my audience, I could just search by the title. I'm just going to type in expressive arts therapy. And here is a book called Expressive Arts Therapy for Traumatized Children and Adults, a 4-phase model. That looks kind of good. Oh, here's another good one. Expressive Therapies Continuum, a framework for using art in therapy. So I'm just going to say, just for the fun of it, that this is a really good book. And I want to make sure that my audience is pointed to that. So if you have, let me scroll down here. I'm going down to the information about the book. So this is what I need. I actually need the ISBN. So if you have the ISBN for a book, and sometimes it's easiest just to find the ISBN on Amazon, I'm going to copy this ISBN, go back over here, add reorder. This says book from the catalog, but I'm just going to click on this, book from the catalog. And we're going to paste this ISBN and click on Get Book Info. And it actually pulled in from the internet, it pulled in the cover art for this book. And the marvelous thing about this is, if this happened to be a book that was owned by your local library, you could put in the call number for your local library. If you're working in a library, you could put in the call number for that. You could add, you can actually modify this description. And I would probably modify this because it's pulling in some extra characters that I don't want there. I just think that's fun to be able to do. As a foundational therapy, let's see if there's anything else I need to edit here. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Again, I can change this description display. I can have it display beneath the title or hover, or I can add the little info icon and I can save that. There you go. And I do that, and there's a description for the book. So that is a super easy way of adding cover art and then adding references to books that you would want your audience to know about. Again, go to Add and Reorder. Scroll down a little bit so I can see that a little bit better. And go to Book from the Catalog and then do a search by the ISBN of the book, and you should be good to go. There's a lot of other things that you can add as well. You can actually add a Google search box if you wanted patrons to be able to search in Google directly from your page. And again, we can go back up here, go to Guide Preview, and I can see what that looks like, and then I can modify that accordingly. So I told you that once you finish working on your guide, one of the last things that you will do is actually publish this as a private guide. And to do this, we're going to go up to Unpublished, and we would click on Change Status and Share. Right now, it is still unpublished. And we would publish this as a private guide. Now, the reason I'm going to have you do this, and I think Dr. Dow would want you to publish it this way as well, is that at this point, this is basically your class assignment, and you may not want to share it with the SpringShare community. Anything you publish as published is visible to everyone via search and browse, so it's actually visible in the SpringShare community, and you may want to do that at some point. But once you finish this as an assignment, I would publish it as a private guide, because then at that point, to submit this assignment, you could submit the URL to Dr. Dow and to anybody else in your class if you wanted to share that. And if they click on the URL, they will be able to see your LibGuide. The other reason you would want to do that, when you get to the point that you're ready to do your capstone, once you finish your SLIM curriculum, you're going to be creating an online or an electronic portfolio. You may want to showcase what you did in LI802. And you can do that very easily by just adding your guide URL to your online portfolio once you get to that, and then your other professors will be able to see the good work that you did. So that's another reason you just may want to publish that as a private guide. You can click on Save. I'm saving that. Make sure that you save that to publish as a private guide, and then you would just click on Close. And this is going to change, and now this is going to say that this is a private guide, and I can share that with this URL the emporiaslim.libguides.com/art therapy. So at this point, I wanted to pause for any questions, but there are also a couple of other resources that I want to share with you all for more information about how to create LibGuides or just getting ideas. And I think, Dr. Dow, I'm going to go ahead and share those with everybody, and then I want to see if there are any questions that people have. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to close some of my tabs first because I don't need those anymore. I'm going to close this tab and close this. Okay, so I wanted to share with you something called LibGuides Community. And are you all seeing that page now that says LibGuides Community?
Mhm.
Okay, so the address for this one is community.libguides.com. And this is exactly as it says. If you want to get more ideas of how creative you can be with LibGuides, I kind of just scratched the surface, and sometimes I'm not quite as creative as I could be. But if you wanted to go to community.libguides.com, we could do a search for National Library Week. And I really like to do this because sometimes when I'm starting a new guide, I need ideas. I need inspiration. What did somebody do? And when I searched on National Library Week, these are actually publicly available LibGuides from academic libraries, public libraries, and so forth that can give me some ideas of what they've done with different topics. So if we went back up here to this first one, here's National Library Week 2017 from the Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Okay, so they haven't done a lot with their guide, but there we go. Let's look at 2016. So this is how they've created this. They've actually done a larger box over here to the left side and then smaller columns over here to the right and added links. You can also add in a document category, you can add links to PDFs if you want. They've added a little t-shirt logo there. And this is actually what I really do like about community.libguides.com. So you can put in your topic or subject or your audience and see what others have done in terms of creating LibGuides. So the last thing I wanted to show you and see what questions are out there. If you were to go back to the library's homepage, still on the tab for research guides, and type in the word creating. This is the last thing I want to leave you with. So everything that I've talked about today, plus a few more things, are under a guide that I wrote, and it's called Learning to Create a LibGuide. And the address for that is libguides.emporia.edu/creating. Or you can just go to the library's homepage, as I did, click on that Research Guides tab, and just type in the word creating. And what I've done is I've given you pages on how to lay out your guide, how to embed your video, how to add images. I've also given some links to Creative Commons. And more information on how to search in the SpringShare community. This is another link that will take you to that community LibGuides site so that you can search for other guides that people have done. At this point, questions from everybody. I know I've kind of gone over a lot of things relatively quickly.
Anyone have anything? Yep, I see a hand here.
Can you go over the database, adding databases a little bit?
Can you show us adding databases? Or show us where it is on your instructions here?
I can, but I'm going to tell you something right off the bat. That databases link will not work with the Slim LibGuide system. because I have tried that. The reason is that the databases link is a default in LibGuides, and that's why you see that. So for example, if I were to go back over to my guide that I was creating, and if I went over here to add and reorder, okay, you are going to see that as a default. I can use that link within the Emporia State University William Allen White Libraries LibGuides site. And the reason I can do that is that that actually links to the library's A to Z databases list. And so it will let me add the databases and actually add that proxy access. The SLIM LibGuides link is separate from the library's A to Z databases list. I hope this is making sense. And because it is separate, I'll put it this way, you can add the name of the database. You're not going to be able to click on the database and get to it because the two are totally separate from SLIM and the library in terms of the accounts. However, what you can do is you can do either a link, or you could add, so let's say you wanted to add a description of a database that might be from your library. You can add, I'm going to change this font again. Okay, so I'm just going to do, let's do Academic Search Premier. Okay, so this is the name of a database. I cannot link to that from the library, but what I can do is I can add that to my rich text. I can add a description about the database itself. I can add links this way to freely available sites online. So that's why I was able to add that link to the American Art Therapy Association. I could add a link back to our library's homepage, and you could do this with your library's homepage as well. Okay. And I can make that a little bit bigger. And what I could do is I could say Academic Search Premier is an example of a variety of databases available via the William Allen White Libraries web page. Go to databases and then the letter A. So I can add a description of how to get to that database, and I added a link to the library's webpage. I just can't do a link to the database itself because the SLIM system is separate from the A to Z databases list that we have access to through the library's account to LibGuides. I hope that makes sense. I wish that worked.
So typically the account you'd be using would be your library's account, and there wouldn't be the barrier that we have because this is a separate student account.
That is exactly it, Dr. Dow. That's a good way to put it. If you were working in the library that had an account to LibGuides, the databases link would work beautifully.
So I'm really glad you brought this up because most every topic there's good reasons to point users to the databases, and if that's the best you can do, then that's the best you can do. Mm-hmm. The other thing that you can do, which seems a little superficial, you could even tell them here what article to look for at that database site. Wouldn't that be the best thing to do, Cynthia?
Absolutely. You could give them examples of topics to search and examples of ways to narrow and focus their search within that database. You can give them that description, and that would be wonderful.
So one of the things that I've seen that I think is really useful is to include a list of search terms. Mm-hmm. Because most people need help to know what terms to search.
Yes.
And a list of search terms is really quite a good addition on a LibGuide, I think.
And actually, let me go back really quickly to our Slim LibGuide, because I did an example of that. If you go to the Finding Books tab, I gave an example of this. And actually, this is a really good segue as well. So I went back to our Slim LibGuide that I wrote for you all, and I clicked on the page or the tab for Finding Books. Now, I was saying that sometimes it's difficult to link to databases. I actually didn't do a link to our Discovery Search tab. You notice that I described it, and I'll tell you why. I used to have a link there for the Discovery Search, so it would take you automatically to that. I found that our Discovery Search, though, times out after a few minutes. So what happened was I was previewing it, it had timed out, and when I clicked on the link for the Discovery Search directly to that, it came up with an error message. And I said, well, that's not going to work. So this is another example of what Dr. Dow was talking about. I basically gave a link to the library's webpage here. I described how the Discovery Search works, and then I gave examples of keyword searches to search in the advanced search options, combining them with the terms and, or not. And you can certainly do that with databases as well.
Yeah, it's a good example. That was a good question.
That was great.
Any other questions that we could ask Cynthia? Well, Cynthia, I'm not seeing any. I think that everybody has a real good idea now of what this is capable of, and with a little practice, it'll seem easy.
Very much so. And I think the biggest thing, again, is to remember to preview. Do that, click on that little eye and preview your guide as you go along, because I can think that something is going to look great from my end, and then I preview it and I realize it's just all messed up. It's not really what I wanted. I'm kind of ending again with the Slim LibGuide. You all know how to get in touch with me, but you can email me at ckane1@emporia.edu. You can call, but you can also, again, set up a research appointment with me through Zoom, what we're using right now. And that can come in really handy if you have a question about how your LibGuide looks. We can set up a Zoom appointment. You can share your screen with me, and then we can kind of go back and forth and maybe answer some questions together. And again, as I mentioned, I will be giving Dr. Dow a YouTube link to the recording of this session, so you can go back and then watch that at any point as well.
Okay, that's very thorough, Cynthia. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good rest of the afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so let us take a break. I'm so glad that you got up when you needed to, and it's past time, so let's